This episode of Truth Table is brought to you by our NAACP Image Award nominated book, Truth Table, Black Women's Musings on Life, Love, and Liberation. Get it where all books are sold.
Sisters, how y'all feel? Brothers, y'all all right? If this is your first time at Truth Table, welcome to the table. And if you've been sitting at the table with us all these years, we are so grateful that you have been listening to us through these years, and we are inviting you to partner with us and support our work at patreon.com/truthstable. Now pull up a chair and have a seat at the table with us. Hey y'all, welcome to Truth Table, Midwives of Culture for Grace and Truth. I'm Ekemini, and Christina is at the table as well. We just wanted to start off this episode to let you know what you can anticipate and what you'll hear. So this is another Behind the Book episode, and the book on the table is Sacred SelfCare by Dr. Chanequa Walker-Barnes. It's a daily practices for nurturing our whole selves. And in this episode, we recorded live at Calvin College's Festival of Faith and Writing in Grand Rapids. And we had a rich conversation and discussion with Dr. Chanequa. The conversation starts well into the interview a little bit. So our traditional introduction is not there. So that's why I wanted to come and actually record this introduction for you all. So we hope that you all take away so many good gems from this episode in the same way that we did, and that you feel empowered to take on sacred self-care for yourself. Let me read a little something about Dr. Chanequa Walker-Barnes so you're more familiar with her. Dr. Chanequa Walker-Barnes is a clinical psychologist and professor of practical theology and pastoral care at Columbia Theological Seminary. Her work focuses on writing and ministering to clergy and faith-based activists and supporting women of color engaged in Christian social justice activism. She is the author of I Bring the Voices of My People and Too Heavy a Yoke. She lives in Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you for taking a seat at the table with us. Enjoy this episode.
You do a really nice job in the book when you talk about self-care is not about something that we go to or that we buy, really detaching this idea of the reality of capitalism, right? Yeah. From our sacred self-care and the necessity. Yeah. I'm over here drinking my water. Yeah. Because she inspired me to drink my water.
Drink your water, mind your business.
But one of the things I really enjoy about it, along with kind of the deep theology, the devotional elements, there is this very practical mind-body care component to this book, even around really basic things like don't forget to drink your water. Right. And so talk to us about your approach to integrating all those pieces, both the science, the theology, that kind of cross-discipline approach which kind of oozes out of you in this book, and why it was important to do that.
Yeah, it's funny, that's so connected to me finding my authentic voice.
Mm-hmm. Once I realized, I was the psychologist for a long time, and, never fitting in any context, because even when I was in psychology, people told me the questions I asked and the things that I thought about were too big, right? They were like, no, you need to distill down to one variable. And I was like, life doesn't work in one variable, right? Right. And so it was always being more holistic. But then also this way of thinking about the science around health. I started my career in psychology really in behavioral health, right, with an internship at the CDC. And so health has always been a background component to my work. In my books, I'm always talking about health, whether it's psychological issues or theological issues. And so for me, this way of putting together the theology with the lived experience and with the how does this meet people where they are is something that I've learned to embrace about myself, right? Yeah. Like don't try to speak like the other theologians speak. I'm not going to speak like them, right?
That's right.
And so for me to really begin to own, this is all of who I am. So let me just embrace this. And the way that I think about it is sometimes it's going to be too theological for the psychology people, and it's going to be too scientific for the theology people. But it's who I am, and it is all of this together that has helped me to understand self-care. Right, in this way that is different from kind of how the marketing folks on Madison Avenue want us to think about it. Yeah.
No, Chanequa, I'm wondering, and I'm curious about if you can break down for our audience what is sacred self-care, and how can it be divorced from the consumerism that we've been talking about, right? So I'm thinking about the round the way girls that I grew up with. I'm one of them. Think about the round-the-way girls that I grew up with, and I'm thinking about caregivers, even my own mom. How can they access? These are people that are always constantly busy, right? And have so much. They have a heavy yoke, too heavy a yoke. So how can they access? What is sacred self-care? How can they access it? And even I would even put ourselves into our conversations, right? I have grown from a around the way girl now to having a ministry platform. But just yesterday we were all talking about how we're very busy, flying here, flying there, and doing this and doing that. How can we help us? How can we access? I need help. How can we access sacred self-care? Because I think I used to equate self-care with going to the nail shop. But y'all, if you go to the nail shop, that's not. I'm sorry, it's not restful.
Although I do believe in getting
I do believe in going. Keep it together. Keep it cute. But it's not very restful for me anyway. Because I'm like, did you do that right? Did you get that corner?
You're managing. You're managing.
I'm trying to how do we tap into sacred self-care? How? At various levels and class levels. How? What is it? And how do we tap in?
Yeah, because part of what I'm trying to do is I'm really trying to interrupt the notion of what self-care is. Even while I've been here, I've had a couple of people ask me, so what do you do for self-care? And I kind of look at them blankly because I'm like, you want the whole list? Like, it's really complicated, right? Right, like, go buy the book and you can see, but because we've grown accustomed to thinking about self-care as like these special things, like go to the spa, go to the nail salon, right? But self-care for me, sacred self-care really consists of the practices, the behaviors, even the patterns of thought, right, that we engage in on a day in and day out basis in order to maintain our vitality, our spiritual vitality, our physical vitality, our relationships, our emotions, our sense of call, right? Understanding that. So how do we care for ourselves as people who were created in the image of God, right? I talk about ourselves as this is the first gift any of us got from God. How do you care for the gift, right? And how do you keep the gift going? If you're in ministry, an added layer of that is how do you maintain your vitality for ministry, right? Whatever that ministry is, right? And that can be the ministry of writing, right? Yeah. And so self-care is really this holistic approach, right? So it's what do I need for spiritual growth, to enhance my spiritual self, right? What are the daily practices that I need? So when I got up this morning, I did my meditation, right? I didn't have a lot of time, but I was like, all right, I can do 5 minutes. Okay. I can sit for 5 minutes and take the 5 minutes, right? Physical health, right? I did my stretching this morning. I felt a little embarrassed when I got into town because I have this really big bag and seeing how the other authors all have these small bags. But it's because my bag has my tea kettle, and my special teas that I need, and my foods that I need to stay on my nutrition plan, and my resistance bands, because if I couldn't get to the gym, I still need to do my weight training, right? And my yoga mat, like all that is in my bag because that's all part of what I need to take care of myself day in and day out. And I'm gonna find a place today, as I did yesterday, to get away for 45 minutes so I can do my morning journaling, right? Like, so that is all part of it. And so for me, it's about how do I do that no matter what else is going on in my life, and how do I have maintain a commitment to that, right? And I do that for the sake of my well-being, but I also do it for the sake of for my family. Right? Because they need me. That's right. They need me to be present for them as well as possible. And for so long I've gone to conferences and worn myself out. And then when I go home, like I'm in a vegetative state, right? And so for me, it's like self-care, no, it's what I do everywhere, even when I travel, right? And sometimes it's like, I'm taking on less. Because I can't stick to my self-care rhythms if I'm running around too much. That's right. Right. So this is that in a nutshell is what sacred self-care is about. That's good.
Thank you. I love the imagery, the juxtaposition. So what came to mind as you was describing that, I was like, thinking about Erykah Badu's Bag Lady.
That's right.
But instead of having a bag of burden,
Yeah.
or other people's bags that you're carrying. You have a bag of self-care,
Yeah.
a bag that reminds you that you are indeed the gift that God has given
Yes.
to yourself and to the world.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned patterns of thinking. And
Yeah.
I wonder, good doctor, if you might lead us, we have a posse of people out here, would you lead us in an affirmation so that we can have an opportunity to address our own patterns of thinking? It's something that you do in this book that y'all should get if you don't already have it. And I mentioned to you that it's almost like a sweet little gift. Like my grandmother would have like these Werther's Originals. So every time I came across that, I was like, here's a little Werther's Original, a little peppermint in her
Little
purse,
trinket.
right? That's what it felt like. And so I wonder if we would give all of us, if you would give all of us one of those peppermints, one of those Werther's Originals in that church bag this morning.
Yeah. And I'll do the affirmation that was the first one I started with when I kicked this journey off for myself in 2002.
Okay.
Right, when I realized I needed to be more attentive and intentional about my self-care. So I'm going to invite you, if you can put both feet on the ground, on the floor. Probably everybody jumped up and rushed this morning to get over here, right? But maybe let's settle. If you feel comfortable closing your eyes in a room full of strangers, I invite you to close them. And if not, just look at a space ahead of you. And for a moment, just feel yourself in your body. Maybe you're checking in and noticing some things you hadn't noticed in your rush this morning. Maybe there's some fatigue or some pain, numbness. Maybe you're feeling good. And as you take a deep breath, repeat to yourself, I am worthy of self-care. 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 And whenever you're ready, if your eyes are closed, if you might open them. You are worthy of self-care. We are all worthy of self-care. I had to use that one because I realized I thought all my time had to go to other people. Right? And so I would jump up in the morning automatically thinking of what I needed to do for my family, for my job, for everybody else, right? And I thought, no, I have to hurry up and get to them and start working for them. And the only way I could slow myself down was to say, no, I'm worthy of self-care.
That's right.
Right? I can take my time. I can use my time for myself, right? And so that, and it's one I keep returning back to every once in a while when I found I've relapsed. I go back to,
relapse.
because relapse is real, right? And so I'm like,
Yes.
so I'm like, okay, wait, no, I'm worthy of self-care.
That's right.
I still, 20 years in, I get up in the morning and I'm a to-do list person. I'm a driven person. So I get up thinking about everything I need to do and let me hurry up and start on that list. And so I still use that, no. I'm worthy of self-care, right? Stop, take the time. I deserve my own time. So it becomes something that I continue to use every day.
That's good. Thank you for that. Yes, Chanequa, as you were saying, I am worthy, leading us in that affirmation, and then talking about relapsing, sometimes, and just feeling like your time was owed to other people. The thought came to mind that anxiety is a liar.
Yes.
And it is a liar. And oftentimes we're the only one that can hear it, because it's our inner voice, right? And emotions and all these things, that are also pressing in. There are external demands, so it ain't all in our head, right? But I'm wondering about if you could speak to the power of affirmations, because in the green room, I was even talking to you about, I've got gotten away from affirmations. I kind of go in and out. I've relapsed. So can you talk to us about why affirmations are important? And why they matter.
Yeah, so a lot of self-care is not so much we don't know what to do for ourselves, it's that we have these thoughts in our head that prevent us from doing it.
Yes, okay.
And so part of what affirmations help us to do, I really think they're a tool of cognitive reframing, right? They're a way of us changing the way we think and giving ourselves new messages. We get a lot of messages, right? I'm looking particularly at all the women in the room. We get a lot of messages about how we're supposed to live for other people, right? Even from the time we're girls and we're playing with baby dolls, and like our play as children is caring for other people, right? We get trained in it early, and so that message that we have to do that, and then that anxiety. So much about self-care is managing our anxiety, right? It's about the anxiety that pops up if I don't show up to work at like 9 a.m. Like the rest of them ain't even there. Why am I thinking I gotta be there? That's my anxiety speaking, right? So my inner critic, I talked about this in chapel yesterday. I realized my inner critic is probably trying to protect me. Right, my inner critic is saying, go hurry up and do this stuff so that you'll be good enough, right? So that you'll be secure, right? You'll have a job, you'll have the money, you'll have what you need to survive. But I can tell my, hush, I see what you're doing. I don't need that anymore, right? Like I'm going to take care of myself. So affirmations for me are really a way of me countering the negative messages, the messages that undermine our self-care, right? And so it's a way of really conscious self-talk for me to give my inner critic a new language.
Amen.
Really to give my inner voice a new language. So rather than coming out of scarcity and anxiety, is coming out of, oh, I am worthy of self-care.
That's right.
I have the time to do what I need for myself this morning. Time is God's gift, not my taskmaster. That's another one of mine, right? That there is an abundance of time. God has created it. Time is God's gift, not my taskmaster, right? And so I can live into this gift of time. Then I can say, ooh, let me see what I'm gonna do with this gift I got, right? Right, and I can make choices around that, right? So it's really a way for me to counter those messages that are just seeped into my whole body.
Wow, thank you for that.
Seeped into our whole body. In very, very real ways.
Very real ways, right?
Our NAACP Image Award nominated book, Truth Table, Black Women's Musings on Life, Love, and Liberation, is making waves and shifting culture. I closed this book feeling like I had just partaken in a multi-course meal, filled with grace and the courage to carry on. And I believe you'll finish this book feeling the same way. Morgan Harper Nichols, artist and poet. Buy Truth Table, Black Women's Musings on Life, Love, and Liberation at our website or wherever books are sold.
So you talk a little bit about epigenetics in the book, and as you said that's what popped in my mind is the way in which stressors and stress and trauma have seeped into the body. And so sacred self-care becomes a righteous response to systemic oppression. It becomes a righteous response to hatred, to racism, to bigotry, to misogyny, you name it. And so I think you underscore that so well. I think of this book as being in conversation. This is what I think. You tell us. I think of this book as being in conversation with Too Heavy a Yoke. It is almost for me, the operationalizing of Too Heavy. No, now what do I do with this? You have told me the report. And now you've also offered me a way to move forward in this book. That's how I see it. How do you see the books working together?
Yeah, I love that you use the word operationalize. Of course, it's a clinical word. We like that word, right?
We like those words.
But it is exactly that. And I've used that word to talk about it before that. When I wrote Too Heavy a Yoke, my first book, which is about this myth of the strong Black woman and the way it impacts the health of Black women and the theologies that shape that, right? And kind of at the end, I said, do self-care, right? But I didn't know, and I actually held off on writing that book for a while because I didn't know what's the prescriptive, What am I telling people to do that's
yeah.
different than what we've been doing? And I finally got to, I think self-care is really important here. But at the time, I was still kind of a novice, right, in self-care. And I felt like I still don't know what precisely to tell people. And it's kind of like the elders say, just keep living, baby.
Well.
Right. And so I kept living and kept like, and kept like trying things and failing, right? And failure is a lot.
Learning.
A lot of this book comes out of my failure and reflecting on failure and being like, okay, that didn't work. Like, let me try something else, right? And so it really is, I think, a continuation of that book in a way of saying, this is how you do it. So when I told you to do self-care, this is what I meant, right? And now I think I have some wisdom to give you about self-care based on my 20-year journey of you know, kind of recovery and relapse over and over again, and also really kind of figuring out, okay, and what works, right? What works, what is helpful, and why do I keep relapsing, right? And let's address those things, right? And so it comes definitely out of that.
That's good. You know, speaking about your previous work, first of all, y'all, make sure you get Too Heavy a Yoke and Sacred SelfCare.
Get all the books. Get the whole collection.
Put them into conversation, okay? Because there is a continuum.
We know y'all like books.
You know, I do like to read the words back to the author. This is my
this is the thing. It's her jam.
when I do, it's my Oprah moment. Week 5 is says caring for our emotional selves. I would like to read that portion, and then let's talk about it. Let's unpack it. Over the past few weeks, we focused on our physical health and well-being, on the internal self-care work of self-compassion, and on setting up and maintaining boundaries as a way to care for ourselves. When the demands of our lives exceed our coping capacities, we usually feel the impact first as an emotional response. We may feel overwhelmed, anxious, angry, and resentful. At the same time, we lack feelings of joy, ease, calm, peace, and contentment, the feelings that are necessary for embodying the fruits of the Spirit. Come on, y'all, fruits of the Spirit.
Well,
come on,
Bible
teach us. You know, that's the thing. Holistic self-care, then, requires us to nurture emotional wellness, which includes recognizing and learning from negative emotions and cultivating positive emotions. Our practices in this week focus on both. So, speaking about negative emotions and positive emotions, we are in the year 2024 of our Lord. We are in an election year.
Yes, we are.
Which seems like it doesn't really feel like an election year. I don't know what's going on. 2024 is it's something else. It's a different year. It's a different type of year. And the rage online, again, another conversation we were talking about right before we came on, it just seems to be getting at a fever pitch where it just seems like there is nitpicking, fault finding over just any little thing, things that we usually would commonly agree on. I'm like, dang, we got an issue with this too now. Okay. And so how do we maintain our self-care, particularly in the on the interwebs? In the face of AI, we're just flooded with so much, right? So much rhetoric, so much chatter, so much talk. So many posts. I don't care. Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, whatever. Pick your platform. There's a whole lot of messages and conflicting messages, coming at us. How do we build positive emotions and repel negative emotions? Build inner resilience online. What does self-care look like? Sacred self-care look like in the age of social media and AI and an election cycle? Help us. Help us.
Again, and also give us your Venmo, because we're making you do work right now.
That's right. A
Cash
love
App,
offering. What is
all
your
the
Venmo?
things.
Send a love offering.
Yes, help fix these problems. Thank you.
So because social media, one of the things that social media does is it lets us into each other's interiority in a way that we are not meant to be in each other's interiority.
You got to know how to mind your business. You got to know how to mind your business.
It's funny because I think about therapy and psychological assessment, and like the Rorschach, the ink blot test.
Oh yes.
So I was trained in doing assessment, And, people come up with kind of crazy responses on those tests, but it's they call for sort of crazy responses, right? Sure. In therapy, we know people are filtering all the time.
Right.
We know you're supposed to filter.
Right.
Right. We actually get really concerned when people tell us like really crazy stuff, and we're like, oh, you said that, and you thought that, and you said it. I knew we all gonna think crazy things when we see that.
Right,
but you
right.
said not just the normal crazy things that everybody sees. You said some extra crazy things, right?
Right.
Like, yeah, everybody sees certain things. It's like, yeah, it looks weird, but that is exactly what it looks like.
Yeah.
Right.
And social media removes that filter. So we have a thought that's a private thought in our own space where, but then we share that with everybody, and we're processing out loud in public all the time. Right? We haven't even had time. And the hot take, because everybody wants to have the hot take and respond immediately, and it's not even, I've sat and thought about this. It's like, this is my knee-jerk reaction, right? And let me put it out there.
That's right.
When we get on social media, then we're bombarded with everybody's emotions, right? And not even just stuff like that, grief.
Yeah.
Right? Like one of the things I've noticed, because so much of my social media is many African Americans, the lower life expectancy for us means somebody's dying all the time.
All the time.
We never get a relief from grief.
Right.
And so if I go on social media today, I know somebody's father or mother or spouse or child has died, right? And so I'm constantly being thrust into that grief, right? So we have to realize that that's emotional as well. So it's not just that I'm carrying my own emotions, I'm now carrying other people's.
Yes.
Right?
For sure.
My prayer list gets so long.
Yes. The prayer list is so long. And then globally, we have a way to touch into the pain and suffering in the world in ways that we never did before. 24-hour news cycles, right? Because they got to have stuff, and they know that the suffering is what drives us. And so we're constantly being bombarded with bad news, right? Whether it's in our local context, but also we see it now. We can see what's happening in Palestine, right? And we can see what's happening in Israel. And so we end up just really being driven by that. All that is affecting us emotionally. And we don't know to take care of that. We don't know to even recognize it. And many of us, depending on our religious background, we've been taught that, these emotions are bad, suppress them. And so part of what self-care is doing is telling us that, I'm trying to say, pay attention to your emotions. And instead of actually trying to push them away, just say, oh, what is that telling me? Did I just go off on somebody? What was that about? Right? Just actually walk up to that and be like, so what are you trying to tell me? What's this? Like with curiosity, am I feeling angry? Okay, what do I need to take care of my anger? Am I feeling anxious? What do I need to take care of my anxious? So it's really more about accepting what is happening to us as ways, because these are signals. Our body tells us signals. Something's wrong, you need to take care of it. The something's wrong is not always out there. Sometimes it's in here, right? It's like, I got mad at you for the thing you said online, but really the problem was I am flooded. I got too much going on in my life. I have not been taking care of myself. So anything is setting me off, right? And so emotional self-care is inviting us to just get in tune with our emotions so that then we can see what we need to take care of and then also what we need to cultivate. When was the last time I laughed? Right? Did I laugh today? Oh, then I need to laugh today. What is it that's going to help me laugh today?
That's right.
When did I last feel joy and delight? If I'm not feeling that, then what do I need to do to feel that, right?
That's good,
and so it's really being very intentional about those things.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'm writing my mental notes.
I know, right? Well, just having the wisdom to separate the consequences of emotional contagion from seeking to be a truly empathetic person, right? And I do think there's a sense of guilt that people have, particularly people who care and want to be seen as caring, want to be seen as aware and conscious and justice-oriented. I think that they can put themselves in a place of just a flood of emotional contagion where they may not end up being good to the cause or good to themselves.
Exactly.
Right?
They reach compassion fatigue, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because there is a limit to our compassion.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So while we think about Too Heavy a Yoke and some other works that you have which really beautifully center the experiences of Black women, Sacred SelfCare is a book as is all of those books, but particularly for a broad audience. And we happen to be at a festival for writers and those who love things that are written. And do you have, because I believe you do, some thoughts, some affirmations, some reminders, some cautions for writers specifically around sacred self-care? As a writer, what do you believe are maybe potentially some of the unique vulnerabilities or opportunities for writers to engage and embrace sacred self-care?
Yeah. You know, for me, self-care is very much tied to writing. Because writing and creativity, whatever your creative expression is, requires us to be in a place of rest and not in a place of fight or flight.
That's right.
That's right.
And so the more that we're in fight or flight because we are overstressed, the less creative we are. Creative energy, like it's a different type of energy that it requires. So often if we're feeling blocked, if we're not expressing ourselves, it's because we're not taking care of ourselves, right? If you've ever, you've had a problem that you've just been, it's just had you all worked up, and then you got a good night's sleep, and then you woke up and you figured it out in 5 minutes. And you're like, why was I stressing about that? It was that, right?
I needed a nap.
We needed a nap, right? If you sit at the page and you've been there for hours and nothing is coming, and often I'm like, it ain't happening today, baby. Go take a nap, right? Go take a nap. And then it's like, okay, now it's coming, right?
Yeah.
And so for writers, self-care is actually also how we help nurture that impulse, that creative impulse. So part of it is, what do I need to write? Do I need to be, I told somebody I was going to find the art gallery here. Right? Because I need to be inspired by other forms of creativity. So for my self-care, it is part of that nurturing the creativity. How do I do that? And so part of that is I want to be inspired by other people's creativity. Some of my self-care is doing non-writing creativity. Lately it's Legos. I'm doing the adult Lego sets, right? The botanicals. I'm working on the orchid right now. I hope to work my way up to the typewriter.
Come on. That is advanced. You talk about work your way up.
I've seen a bouquet.
Yeah, so I've done the succulents is the one I've done, right? And so these are things that help me to engage creativity in a different type of way.
That's right.
Right. And I'm thinking, that's going to inspire and spark some things, and even being exposed to forms of creativity. I'm not like a really art appreciator, but I want to develop the skill.
Yeah.
Right. And so let me start going and doing art, and I do crafts and stuff like that. Right. And all of this is about, and so for writers, that's part of the work. It's nurturing the creativity as well, right? And it's in addition to taking care of the body and the emotions, it's how do we nurture, and being here is part of that. So people have asked me, I'm like, no, I'm coming to sessions, right? Beyond my own session. I want to learn from writers and hear from writers, because iron sharpens iron, right?
That's right.
And so that's part of what we need to do.
Yeah, wow. Thank you so much wisdom that you have dropped. So many gems that you've dropped here, just about creativity and inner self-resilience, and thank you. It's self-compassion.
Yeah.
Yes.
we need that. I'm sad that our time is coming to drawing to a close. But before we go, I would love for you to talk about how people can buy your work, where they can go get a book from you, all your works, follow you, any upcoming projects. This is your time to tell the people where they can follow you.
Self-promotion.
Self-promotion.
Self-care and self-promotion.
So here, of course, you can get, this book is at the main book area, and then my other two books, Too Heavy a Yoke, and I Bring the Voices of My People, the publishers, Erdman's and Wiffenstock, are here in the exhibit hall and have those, but you can also find them wherever books are sold. On Amazon carries them. Bookshop, if you want to support independent booksellers, right? So Bookshop. If you happen to be in Georgia, go by Cara's Bookstore, which is one of the oldest feminist bookstores in the world, and so one of my favorite places to shop. But shop your local booksellers, and then you can find me. I write a newsletter weekly. It comes out through Substack, and so that's just Dr. Chanequa.substack.com. And I continue to write about issues of faith and justice and healing and just kind of whatever I'm going through.
Whatever you want to write about.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever you want to write about. Wow.
Well, we are so grateful to hear from you today. And when I say we, I think I'm speaking to the collective we in the room. Would you give it up for Dr. Chanequa? Thank you. So I hope to our audience, as you leave this place today, you will be taking some of these gifts that you have blessed us with and adding it to how you see yourself and what you're going to do next with it. And if you haven't gotten this book, go ahead and make sure you get one.
Yes,
Take care and be well.
Yes, thank you for sitting at the table with us, Dr. Chanequa Walker-Barnes.
Thank
We're
you
grateful
for
for you.
having me. Glad to be here.
Thank you. All right.
Thank y'all.
We want to thank y'all for taking a seat at the table with us. Let's keep the conversation going. Share your thoughts on social media with us using the hashtag #TruthTable. Black women. Did y'all know that we have a Black Women's Facebook discipleship group? Well, now you do. Make sure you follow Truth Table on Facebook and join our Facebook group today. Invite your homegirls too. Follow us on X, Instagram, and Facebook at Truth Table, or email us your thoughts about this episode at asktruthstable@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate and review the show on iTunes and subscribe on your favorite podcast player. Truth Table has a Patreon account, so y'all can send your love offerings to patreon.com/truthstable, or you can bless us at our PayPal, which is paypal.me/truthstable. Truth Table's audio producer is Joshua Heath. Our video producer is Daryl Bradford. And Truth Table's executive producers and hosts are Ekemini and Christina Edmondson. We'll see you soon on the next Truth Table. Bye, y'all.